Okay, just have to get my angle a little bit straighter there. Good evening, football fans. Big Al here on this Tuesday, September 13th, 2022, and welcome to the season premiere of the week that was as we take a look back at Kickoff Week 2022 in the National Football League. And man, what an opening week it was. You have plenty of upsets on the board, like the Seahawks beating the Broncos, the Bears beating the Niners in a rainstorm, the Bengals turning the ball over 5 times and losing in overtime to the Steelers. You have the Colts and Texans finishing a tie, and you have some near upsets as well, like, say, Jacksonville nearly pulling one out in Washington. The Falcons, who had a big lead against the Saints but choked it away. And the Eagles, who nearly gave one up to the Lions, thanks to a big fourth quarter rally by Detroit. And oh yeah, there's also the defending Super Bowl champions who were flat out dominated on their home field by the Bills, and we'll talk all about that in this week's edition of the week that was, where I'll give you all the team stats from all 16 games, and then I'll tell you how I fared in my picks straight up and against the spread, and at the end, I will tell you how I fared this week in those areas, plus my week 2 power rankings, which are currently up on my Facebook page. Just go to facebook.com/Big Al Williams. That being said, let's jump into the week that was. Kickoff Week 2022, and we'll kick things off with the Thursday night tilt between the number 1 and number 2 teams in my power rankings. The number 1 team being the Buffalo Bills, the odds-on favorite to win Super Bowl 57, versus my number 2 team, the Los Angeles Rams, who won Super Bowl 56 on their home field just 7 months earlier. Well, the celebration was squashed for the Rams as they get trampled 31-10 by Buffalo. The Bills are 1-0. They'll have their home opener next Monday night against the Tennessee Titans. The 0-1 Rams will welcome the Atlanta Falcons into SoFi Stadium. And here's a look at the offensive numbers for both teams. All right, Buffalo ran 56 plays for 413 yards, averaging 7.38 yards per play, while the Rams offense ran 59 plays for 243 yards, averaging 4.12. As for passing, Buffalo had 31 throws for 292, averaging 9.42 yards per pass. LA, 41 passes for 191, averaging 4.66. One team ran the ball better than the other, and that team was the Bills. 25 rushes for 121 yards at 4.84 yards per play. And the Rams were held to 18 carries for 52 yards, averaging just 2.89 yards per run. First downs favored the Bills 23-19. Third downs, Buffalo was almost automatic in this one. They went 9 for 10 on third down for 90%, while the Rams finished 6 for 13, 46.2%. Buffalo did not have a fourth down play, while the Rams went 2 for 3 for 66.7%. The Bills had 5 penalties for 35 yards, while the Rams had 4 for 30. Time of possession advantage Buffalo, 31 minutes and 14 seconds versus 28 minutes and 46 seconds for LA. Buffalo's defense recorded 50 tackles, 27 solo, with 7 sacks, no forced fumbles, 6 passes defended, 3 interceptions, and no touchdowns. The Rams defense, 47 tackles, 28 solo, with 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 3 passes defended, 2 interceptions, and no touchdowns. Closing line was Buffalo -2 over under 51.5. This game finished under the total at 41 points. The teams combined for 115 plays, 656 yards, average of 5.70 yards per play. I picked the Bills to win straight up 27-24, and I picked them to cover the 2 points, which they do so with ease. So I won both the straight up and ATS picks there. Now to the Sunday afternoon game, starting off with the Ravens and Jets. Baltimore wins this one 24-9. The Ravens are 1-0, and they will host the Dolphins in their home opener on Sunday, while the 0-1 Jets travel to Cleveland to face off with Jacoby Brissett and the Browns. Okay. The Ravens offense limited to 51 plays, 274 yards, average of 5.37 yards per play. The Jets offense, 76 plays, 378 yards, 4.97 yards per play. Baltimore threw the ball 30 times for 211, averaging 7.03 per pass. The Jets, 59 passes, 295 yards, averaging an even 5 yards per pass. And neither ran the ball. Baltimore just 63 yards on 21 rushes, averaging 3 yards. Jets 83 yards on 17 rushes, averaging 4.88. First downs favored New York, 24-13. Third down conversions were 5 for 13, 38.5% for the Ravens, and a paltry 2 for 14 for the Jets at 14.3%. The Ravens did not attempt a fourth down, while the Jets attempted 4 and converted 3 of them for 75%. The Ravens had 5 penalties for 29 yards, the Jets 6 for 81. Time of possession favored the New York Jets, 32 minutes 30 seconds to 27 minutes 30 seconds for Baltimore. The Ravens defense had 54 tackles, 33 solo, with 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 4 passes defended, 1 interception, and no touchdowns. The New York Jets had 34 tackles from their defense, 18 solo tackles, 2 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 4 passes defended, 1 interception, and no touchdowns. Closing line was Baltimore -6.5, over under 44. This game finished under at 33. The two teams combined for 127 plays, 612 yards, averaging 5.13 yards per play. I picked the Ravens to win straight up 31-17 and to cover the 6.5 points, winning both picks there. Next, the Cleveland Browns at the Carolina Panthers. It's Baker Mayfield, now the starter for the Panthers, facing off with his former team. And it was the team that drafted Baker Mayfield, number 1 overall in 2018, that would have the last laugh in this one, as Cleveland wins 26-24. Panthers are 0-1. They will visit the Giants at MetLife Stadium on Sunday, while the Browns will host New York's other team, the Jets. Cleveland's offense had 73 total plays for 355, averaging 4.86 yards per play. Carolina's offense ran just 46 plays for 261, averaging 5.67. Passing plays. Browns at 34 for 138, averaging 4.06. Carolina 27 for 207, averaging 7.67. And the ground attacks were different on both ends. The Browns were dominant on the ground. 39 carries for 217 yards as a team, averaging 5.56 yards per rush. Whereas the Panthers held to 54 yards on 19 rushes, averaging 2.89 yards per run. First downs favored the Browns, 23-15. Cleveland was 8 of 18 on third down at 44.4%, 1 for 2 on fourth down, 50%. Carolina was 4 of 11 on third downs, 36.4%, and no fourth down plays. Both teams were hit hard with the penalties. 17 total in this game. 9 by the Browns for 71 yards, 8 by the Panthers for 96. Time of possession easily favored Cleveland at nearly 2-1. 38 minutes, 26 seconds time of possession for Cleveland to 21-34 for Carolina. That makes the Browns our first ball hawks of 2022. A ball hawk, if you're new here, is a team that possesses the ball in a game for 35 minutes or more. Doesn't matter if you win or lose a game. The Browns defense recorded 29 tackles, 11 solo tackles, 4 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 7 passes defended, 1 interception, and no touchdowns. The Panthers had 43 tackles, 1 solo for the entire game, 1 sack, no forced fumbles, 3 passes defended, no interceptions, and no touchdowns. So the defense for Carolina was pretty silent in this game. Closing line was Carolina minus 1.5, over under 42. This game finished over the total at 50. The two teams combined for 119 plays, 616 yards, averaging 5.18 yards per play. I picked Carolina to win 24-14, and I picked them to cover the 2.5 points. I lost both bets, or both picks rather. And that's my first loss straight up in ATS. All right, there you got the Indianapolis Colts at the Houston Texans. The Texans looked like they were going to run away with this thing. They were up 20-7 going into the fourth quarter, but then Matt Ryan led an Indy comeback and forced overtime, where this game would ultimately be tied at 20. And Houston had a chance to win the game in overtime, but there was some questionable coaching from Lovie Smith, which resulted in this game finishing in a 20-20 tie. Both teams are 0-1. The Colts are off to Jacksonville to try and end an 8-game. The Colts are off to Jacksonville where they'll try to end a 7-game road losing streak to the Jaguars on Sunday, while the Texans visit Denver to face Russell Wilson and the Broncos. The Indianapolis offense put up 90 plays and 517 yards, averaging 5.74 yards per play, while Houston's offense 65 plays, 299 yards, 4.60 average. The Colts threw the ball 52 times for 340 yards, 6.54 average. The Texans 37 passes for 222, averaging an even 6 yards per pass. Indianapolis ran the ball 38 times for 177 yards, averaging 4.66 yards a tote. The Texans, 28 carries for just 77 yards and a meager 2.75 yards per carry on average. First downs favored Indy, 33-20. The Colts were 6 of 15, 40% on third down. The Texans were 5 of 15, 33.3%. Indianapolis was 0 for 1 on fourth down. Houston had no fourth down plays. The Colts were hit with 7 penalties for 89 yards. The Texans 6 for 40. Time of possession favored the Colts, 39 minutes, 35 seconds, which makes them ball hawks. Houston, 30 minutes, 23 seconds. Indy's defense recorded 49 tackles, 11 solo, with 3 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 2 passes defensed, no interceptions, and no touchdowns. Houston's defense had 58 tackles, 41 solo, with 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 11 passes defensed, 1 interception, and no touchdowns. Closing line was Indy -7. Over under is 46. Another touchdown would have been a push, and the PAT afterwards would have put this game over as the two teams split 40 points. They combined for 155 offensive plays for 816 yards, averaging 5.26 yards per play. I picked the Colts to win 31-20. This game obviously ended in a tie, and I also picked Indy to cover the 7 points. That didn't happen as this game, as I said, ended in a tie. So I got a tie there. 2-1-1 record straight up, and 2-1-1 against the spread. Next, the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Washington Commanders. Jacksonville had the lead for much of this game, but a fourth quarter charge by the Washington Commanders and their new quarterback, Carson Wentz, pushed them to a 28-22 win. Washington is 1-0. They will visit the Lions in Detroit on Sunday, while the Jaguars host the Indianapolis Colts as they will try to extend their home win streak against Indianapolis to 8 straight games. They have not dropped a home game to Indy since 2014. Washington's offense ran 69 plays for 390 yards, averaging 5.65 yards a play. Jacksonville 60 plays for 383, 6.58 yards per play. So total yards nearly evenly distributed by the two teams. Okay, both teams threw the ball 41 times. Washington had 305 yards on their 41 passes, averaging 7.44 yards. Jacksonville had 260 on their 41 throws, averaging 6.19 yards per pass. Washington ran the ball 28 times for only 85 yards. That's a 3.04 average. Jacksonville, that should be 18 for 123, 6.83 yards per rush. First downs are a slight advantage to the Commanders, 26-24. Washington hit their third downs. They were 7 of 10 for 70%. Jacksonville did not. They were 3 for 12 for 25%. No fourth down attempts for Washington. 1 attempt for Jacksonville, which failed. There were 19 total penalties in this game, 6 for 63 yards for the Commanders, and 13 for 90 yards for the Jacksonville Jaguars, which would make them the most penalized team in the NFL based on number of flags committed. Time of possession favored Washington, 33 minutes, 33 seconds versus 26-27 for the Jaguars. Washington's defense had 41 tackles, 30 solo tackles, 2 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 5 passes defended, 1 interception, and no touchdowns. Jacksonville's defense had 48 tackles, 34 solo, with 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, 6 passes defended, 2 picks, and no interception, or rather no touchdowns. Closing line was Washington -3 over 43. This game finished 7 points over at 50. The two teams combined for 129 plays for 773 yards, averaging 5.99 yards per play, so just under 6 a pop by teams. I picked Washington to win 26-20, and I picked them over the 3 points. I won both picks. Saints and Falcons, and this was a close game. The Saints would win it on a field goal, and a blocked Atlanta field goal, 27-26. New Orleans improves to 1-0. They get Tom Brady and the Bucs in the Superdome on Sunday, while the 0-1 Falcons travel to LA to face the reigning defending Super Bowl champions. The Saints offense ran 53 plays for 385 yards, averaging 7.26 yards per play. The Falcons offense, 71 total plays for 416, averaging 5.86. New Orleans threw the ball 34 times for 234, averaging 6.88 yards per. And Atlanta threw the ball 33 times for 215, averaging 6.52. The Saints ran the ball just 19 times, but picked up 151 yards on those 19 rushes, averaging 7.95 yards per rush. But the Falcons were man beasts running the ball. 38 rushes for 201, averaging 5.29 per rush. First downs favored Atlanta, 26-18. Both teams not really good on third down. 4 of 13 for the Saints, 30.8%. 5 of 13 for the Falcons at 38.5%. And neither team had a fourth down play. Both teams finished with 8 penalties. 99 yards on 8 penalties for the Saints. 55 yards on 8 penalties for the Falcons. Time of possession favored Atlanta, 33-44 to 26-16. The Saints defense, 57 tackles, 42 solo, no sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 2 passes defended, no interceptions or touchdowns. Falcons defense, 35 tackles, 12 solo, 3 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 2 passes defense, no interceptions, no touchdowns. Closing line was New Orleans minus 5.5, over under 44. Total points was 53, so this game finished over the total. The two teams combined for 124 plays, 801 yards, 6.46 average. I picked the Saints to win straight up 31-27, and I picked the Falcons to cover the 5.5 points. I won both picks. Next up, the New England Patriots at the Miami Dolphins. Home team wins this one, 20-7. Dolphins are 1-0. They're off to Baltimore to face Lamar Jackson and the Ravens next week, while the 0-1 Patriots take off to Pittsburgh to battle the Steelers. Miami's offense finished with 56 plays, 307 yards, averaging 5.48 yards per play. The Patriots, 53 plays, 271 yards, averaging 5.11. The Dolphins threw the ball 33 times for 242, averaging 7.33 yards per pass. New England, 31 pass plays, 193 yards, and a 6.23 average. Neither team ran the ball all that much either. They didn't gain too much yardage either. Miami, 23 rush plays, 65 yards, 2.83 average. New England, 22 rush plays, 78 yards, 3.55 rush average. First down, slight advantage to the Miami Dolphins, 18-17. Both in the 40 percentile in third down conversions. 4 for 9 for the Patriots at 44.4% versus 6 of 14 for the Dolphins at 42.8%. All right. The Dolphins were 1 for 1 on fourth down. The Patriots were 0 for 1. Miami had 4 penalties for 20 yards. New England 3 for 15. Time of possession favors Miami, 32 minutes and 30 seconds to 27 minutes and 30 seconds for the Patriots. Miami's defense had 40 tackles, 14 solo, with 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 6 passes defensed, 1 interception, and no touchdown. The Patriots had 41 tackles, 25 solo, with 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and zeros everywhere else. No passes defended, no interceptions, no touchdowns. Closing line was Miami -3 over under 46. This game finished well under that number at 27. Only 109 offensive plays for 578 yards, 5.30 yards per play average. I picked the Dolphins to win 24-20 and to cover the 3 points, which they do so easily, winning by 13. So I won both picks there. I'm 5-1-1, both straight up and against the spread. They have pretty much the most entertaining game on the week 1 schedule, outside of, say, the Colts Texans, and again that we'll be talking about after this one, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles at the Detroit Lions, in which the Birds win 38-35, but not before holding off a fourth quarter rally by the home team. Philly is off to a 1-0 start. They will host the Minnesota Vikings on Monday night, while the 0-1 Lions welcome the Washington Commanders to Ford Field. The Philadelphia offense registered 72 plays for 455 yards, averaging 6.32 yards per play. The Lions offense, 65 plays for 386, 5.94 average. As far as pass plays go, the Lions 37 for 205, averaging 5.54. And both teams ran the ball very well. Philadelphia had 40 rushes for 216 yards, averaging 5.40 yards per rush. Detroit ran it 28 times for 181, averaging 6.46 yards per rush. First downs favored the Eagles, 27-23, and both teams were good on third down. Philly was 10 of 17 for 58.8%. The Lions were 9 of 14 for 64.3%. The Eagles were 2 for 3 on fourth down, 66.7%, while the Lions were 1 for 1. And there are a lot of penalties in this game. 10 in total for Philadelphia, 61 yards. 7 for 65 yards for the Detroit Lions. Time of possession favored Philadelphia, 31 minutes, 34 seconds to 28 minutes and 26 seconds for the Lions. The Eagles defense had 39 tackles, 20 solo with 1 sack, no forced fumbles, 4 passes defense, 1 interception, and 1 touchdown. And both were courtesy of James Bradbury, one of their new additions. The Detroit defense had 52 tackles, 29 solo with 1 sack, no forced fumbles, 5 passes defended, no interceptions, and no touchdowns. Closing line was Philadelphia -6 over 49, and these two teams shot well over that at 73 points. They combined for 137 plays and 841 yards, averaging 6.14 yards per play. I picked Philly to win 28-23 and to cover the points, and I won both picks. Now that game was entertaining. So was the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Cincinnati Bengals. Although it was anything but for one of these teams. The Cincinnati Bengals turned the ball over. Their money kicker, Evan McPherson, the point after at the end of regulation that would have won the game at that point. And he also missed a chip shot 29-yard field goal in overtime that also would have won. Then the Steelers, Craig Boswell kicked a 55-yard field goal in overtime that hit off the left uprights, but he would get a shot at redemption. He would nail a 53-yarder in overtime, and that proves to be the difference as the Steelers walk out of Cincinnati's jungle with a 23-21 in overtime. The Steelers are 1-0. They will host the New England Patriots on Sunday, while the 0-1 defending AFC champions traveled to Dallas to face the injury-riddled Cowboys. The Steelers offense ran 60 plays for 267 yards, averaging 4.45 yards per play. The Cincinnati Bengals ran 87 plays for 432, averaging 4.97 yards per play. Pittsburgh threw the ball 38 times for 192, averaging 5.05. Cincinnati 53 passes, 299, averaging 5.64. Ground attacks. The Steelers 22 rushes, 75 yards, 3.41 average. Bengals 34 rushes, 133, and a 3.91 average. First downs, big advantage to the Bengals, 32 to the Steelers 13. Cincinnati was 8 for 16, 50% on third down, while the Steelers were just 4 of 15, 26.7%. Steelers had no fourth down plays. The Bengals were 1 for 3 for 33.3%. Pittsburgh was flagged 8 times for 59 yards. Cincinnati 4 for 27. Time of possession favored the Bengals. Their ball hawks at 43 minutes, 43 seconds to 26-17 for the Steelers. Pittsburgh's defense, 64 tackles, 35 solo, 7 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 9 passes defense. The aforementioned 4 interceptions, and one of them being returned for a touchdown. In fact, the first interception of the game was returned for a touchdown. The Cincinnati defense at 42 tackles, 27 solo with 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, 4 passes defense, no interceptions, and no touchdowns. Closing line was Cincy -7 over under 45. They just missed it by a couple points. 43 was the actual point total. They combined for 147 plays and 699 yards, averaging 4.76 yards per play. Picked the Bengals to win 27-24 straight up. However, I took Pittsburgh to cover the 7 points, which they did. So I lost the straight up pick. I won the ATS pick in this one. So I'm 6-2-1, both straight up and against the spread. And then the final game in the early window was the San Francisco 49ers at the Chicago Bears in a torrential rainstorm at Soldier Field. And the Bears get the job done thanks to a big fourth quarter. They win 19-10. The Bears are 1-0. They will visit the Green Bay Packers on Sunday Night Football, while the 0-1 49ers have their home opener this coming Sunday against Pete Carroll's Seattle Seahawks. All right, the Bears ran only 54 plays for 204 yards, 3.78 average. The Niners, 65 plays, 331 yards, and a 5.09 average. Chicago threw the ball just 17 times for 105 yards, 6.18 average. San Francisco, 28 passes for 155, 5.54 average. Each team ran the ball 37 times. The Bears, on their 37 rushes, only got 99 yards and averaged 2.68 yards per rush attempt, while the 49ers got 176 yards on their 37 runs, averaging 4.76 yards per run. First downs favored San Francisco, 17-15. Third down conversions, 5 of 14 for Chicago, 35.7%. 8 of 17 for the Niners at 47.1%. Chicago had no fourth down plays. San Francisco was 0 for 2. The Bears were only penalized 3 times for 24 yards, while the 49ers were hit with 12 penalties for 99. Time of possession favors San Francisco, 33 minutes, 28 seconds to 26 minutes and 32 seconds for the Chicago Bears. The Bears defense had 53 tackles, 44 solo, with 2 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 4 passes defensed, 1 interception, and no touchdowns. The 49ers defense, 35 tackles, 25 solo, with 2 sacks, no forced fumbles, 2 passes defensed, 1 interception, and no touchdowns. Closing line was San Francisco minus 6.5, over under 38.5, and this game finished well under that at 29 points combined. 119 offensive plays and 535 yards, only an average of 4.50 yards per play. Picked the Niners to win 24-13 and to cover the 6.5 points. I lost both those picks. All right, now we're into the late afternoon portion of the Sunday schedule. Starting off with the Green Bay Packers losing at the Minnesota Vikings 23-7. The Vikings are 1-0, and they will face the Eagles in Philly on Monday night, while the Packers at 0-1 will host the Chicago Bears on Sunday Night Football. The Minnesota defense ran 60 plays for 395, averaging 6.58. Green Bay 57 plays, 338, and a 5.93 average per play. As far as throwing the ball, Minnesota had 32 passes for 269, averaging 8.41. That's a solid number. The Vikings, 39 passes for 227, 5.80 yards per pass. All right, 28 rushes and 126 yards for the Vikings, 4.50 average. 18 rushes, 111 for the Packers, and a 6.17 average. First downs favored Green Bay, 21-19. Third downs 4 of 13 for the Vikings, 30.8%. 3 of 9 for the Packers, 33.3%. 1 for 1 on fourth downs were Minnesota. 0 for 2 for Green Bay. And only 5 total penalties in this game. 3 for Minnesota for 20 yards. 2 by Green Bay for 10. Vikings won the time of possession battle, 31 minutes and 23 seconds to 28-37. Minnesota's defense had 38 tackles, 11 solo, with 4 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 3 passes defended, 1 interception, and no touchdowns. The Green Bay Packers defense had 50 tackles, 29 solo, with 1 sack, no forced fumbles, 1 pass defended, no interceptions, and no touchdowns. Closing line is Minnesota minus 2, over under 46.5. This game finished well under at 30. The two teams combined for 117 plays, 733 yards, 6.26 average. I picked the Vikings to win 34-31 and cover the 2 points. I won both picks. So I'm 7-3-1, both straight up and against the spread. Next up is the Kansas City Chiefs at the Arizona Cardinals, who got out of the gates firing. 3 drives, 3 touchdowns, and they never look back. Kansas City wins big, 44-21. Chiefs are 1-0. They will host the LA Chargers this coming Thursday night, while the Arizona Cardinals at 0-1 travel to Vegas to face the Raiders. All right, KC's offense ran 67 plays for 488 yards, averaging 7.28 yards per play, while the Arizona Cardinals ran 60 plays for 282, averaging 4.70 yards per play. The Chiefs threw the ball 39 times for 360 yards, averaging a crisp 9.23 yards per pass. The Cardinals threw 38 passes for 179, averaging just 4.71. The Chiefs ran the ball 28 times for 128 yards, averaging 4.57 yards per run. The Cardinals 22 rushes for 103, averaging 4.68 yards per run. First downs favored the Chiefs 33-18. Kansas City finished 5 of 8 on third down at 62.5%, so they were very efficient in that area. Cardinals only 3 of 12 on third down, 25%. Fourth down attempts, 1 for 1 for the Chiefs, 3 for 4 for Arizona, 75%. Chiefs were penalized 3 times for 25 yards. Cardinals 5 for 49. Time of possession favored Kansas City, 34 minutes and 42 seconds to 25-18 for the Cardinals. And the Chiefs very close to ball hawk territory. The Chiefs defense had 43 tackles, 32 solo with 3 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 7 passes defended, no interceptions, and no touchdowns. The Arizona defense, 52 tackles, 31 solo, no sacks, 3 forced fumbles, 2 passes defense, no interceptions, and no touchdowns. Closing line is Kansas City minus 6.5, over under 54. This game finished over the point total as the two teams combined for 65 points, 127 offensive plays, and 770 yards. 6.06 yards per play average. I picked Kansas City to win straight up 31-28. I was expecting a much closer game, but this ended up being a blowout, which felt bad news for my ATS pick. I took the Cardinals plus the 6.5, and I lost big as Kansas City won and covered. So that makes me 8-3-1 straight up, 7-4-1 against the spread. All right. Next up, the Las Vegas Raiders and the LA Chargers. The former wins 24-19. Chargers are 1-0. They get the Chiefs at Arrowhead on Thursday night. The Raiders fall to 0-1, and they will host the Cardinals on Sunday. Sorry. All right. The LA offense, 65 plays, 355 yards, 5.46 average. Raiders offense, 58 plays, 320 yards, 6.40 average. LA threw the ball 34 times for 279, 8.21 average. Vegas, 37 passes, 256, 6.92 average. As far as rushing goes, 31 rushes for the Chargers, 76 yards, 2.45 average. Raiders, 13 rushes, 64 yards, 4.92 average. Both teams had 18 first downs. Third down conversions, 6 of 14 for Los Angeles, 42.8%. 5 of 11 for Las Vegas, 45.5%. The Chargers were 0 for 1 on fourth down, while the Raiders were 1 for 2. LA was hit with 5 penalties for 21 yards. Raiders 3 for 11. Time of possession favors the Chargers, 32 minutes and 32 seconds, 27 minutes and 28 seconds for Vegas. Charger defense, 39 tackles, 27 solo, 6 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, 6 passes defended, 3 interceptions, and no touchdowns. They made life hell for Derek Carr. Raiders defense, 54 tackles, 33 solo, no sacks, 1 forced fumble, 1 pass defense, no interceptions, and no touchdowns. Closing line is LA minus 3.5, over under 52. The game finished under at 43. The two teams combined for 115 plays, 675 yards, 5.87 average. I took the Chargers to win 34-27, and I also picked them to cover the 3.5 points. They won by 5. So I got both picks correct. 9-3-1 straight up, 8-4-1 against the spread. Last Sunday afternoon game is the New York Giants at the Tennessee Titans, which the road team wins 21-20. Giants are 1-0. They host the Carolina Panthers on Sunday, while the Tennessee Titans at 0-1 travel to Buffalo to face Josh Allen and the Bills on Monday. And that's one of 2 Monday night games next week. Giants offense, 53 plays, 394 yards, 7.43 average. Tennessee offense, 59 plays, 359 yards, 6.08 average. Giants threw the ball just 21 times for 156 yards. They averaged 7.43. The Titans, 33 pass plays, 266. They averaged 8.06. New York ran the ball 32 times for 238 yards, averaging 7.44 yards per run, while Tennessee had 26 rushes for 93 yards and an average of 3.58. Both teams finished with 19 first downs, and neither team were great on third downs. 2 of 10 for the Giants, 20%. 3 of 11 for the Titans, 27.3%. 1-for-1 fourth down conversions for New York, none for Tennessee. New York was penalized 8 times for 45 yards. Tennessee 7 for 50. Time of possession, 31 minutes and 6 seconds. Advantage to the Titans over the Giants at 28 minutes and 54 seconds. The New York defense had 45 tackles, 23 solo, 1 sack, no forced fumbles, 2 passes defended, no interceptions, no touchdowns. As for the Tennessee Titans, they recorded 51 tackles, 24 solo, with 5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 2 passes defensed, 1 interception, and no touchdowns. Closing line is Tennessee minus 5.5. Over under is 44. This game just missed at 41 points. The two teams combined for 112 plays, 753 yards, 6.72 average. I picked Tennessee to win 21-17 straight up. Lost that pick, 9-4-1. But I picked the underdog Giants to cover the 5.5 points, and they won by 1. So I won that one, 9-4-1 ATS. Now the Sunday night football, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Dallas Cowboys. Bucks win this one 19-3. It was a bit of a snoozer, if you ask me. Tampa Bay is 1-0. They traveled to New Orleans to play the Saints on Sunday, while the 0-1 Cowboys host Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals in week 2. The Bucks ran 60 offensive plays for 347, averaging 5.78 yards per play. Cowboys 60 total plays for 244. They only averaged 4.07 yards per play. Sorry, I'm sleepy. But we're almost done. 27 pass plays for Tampa Bay, 195 yards, 7.22 average. 42 pass plays for Dallas, 173, 4.12 average. Okay, Tampa Bay, 33 rush plays, 152 yards, 4.61 average. And the Cowboys, here it is, 18 rushes, 71 yards, 3.94 average. First downs favored the Bucks, 18-12. Third down conversions, 5 of 14, Tampa Bay, 35.7%. 3 for 15, Dallas, 20%. The Bucks did not attempt the fourth down. The Cowboys attempted 5 and only converting 2 for 40%. Buccaneers at 5 penalties for 25 yards. The Cowboys 10 for 73. Time of possession favors Tampa. 32 minutes, 42 seconds versus 27-18. The Bucks defense at 42 tackles, 26 solo with 4 sacks, no forced fumbles, 6 passes defended, 1 interception, and no touchdowns. The Dallas defense 46 tackles, 22 solo, 2 sacks, no forced fumbles, 3 passes defended, 1 interception, and no touchdowns. Closing line was Tampa Bay minus 2.5, over-under is 49, and this game finished well under that. At 22 points, this was the lowest scoring game in week 1. The two teams combined for 120 plays, 591 yards, averaging 4.93 yards per play. I picked Tampa to win 34-30, so that's 10-4-1 straight up. I also picked the Buccaneers to cover the 2.5 points. That makes me 10-4-1 against the spread. And then Monday Night Football, featuring the long-awaited return to Seattle for Russell Wilson as a Denver Bronco as he faced his former team, the Seahawks. And it was the home team getting the best of them. 17-16, Seattle would be your final. The Hawks are 1-0. They travel to San Francisco, technically Palo Alto, to play the 49ers, while the Broncos at 0-1 will host the Houston Texans. Seahawks offense, 47 plays, 253 yards, 5.38 average. Broncos offense, 62 plays, 433 yards, 6.98 average. Seattle threw the ball 28 times for 177, 6.32 average. Denver, 42 passes, 330, 7.86 average. Rush plays, 19 for 76 for Seattle, 4 yards per play on the ground. 20 rushes, 103, and a 5.15 average for the Broncos. First downs favored Denver, 20-19. Third down, 6 of 11 for the Hawks, 54.5%. 8 of 15 for the Broncos, 53.3%. Both teams finished 0-for-1 on fourth down. Seattle had 5 penalties for 77 yards. Denver had a whopping 12 penalties for 106. Time of possession favored Denver, 33-39 to 26-21. Seahawks defense, 50 tackles, 31 solo, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 4 passes defended, no interceptions, and no touchdowns. The Bronco defense, 34 tackles, 9 solo, 2 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, 2 passes defended, no interceptions, and no touchdowns. Closing line, Denver minus 6, over under was set at 43.5. They missed it by about 10 points. They scored 33 points. 109 offensive plays, 686 yards, 6.29 average. All right. I picked Denver to win straight up 31-13. In fact, this was my lock of the week. Not only did I pick the Broncos to win straight up, I also took them against the spread minus the 6. And obviously with Seattle winning by a point, I lost both games. So in week 1, I finished 10-5-1, both straight up and against the spread. All right, before we go, here's a look at my week 2 power rankings. Number 32, the Atlanta Falcons. Number 31, the Chicago Bears. Number 30 are the Jacksonville Jaguars. 29 is the Houston Texans. 28, the New York Jets. At 27, the Seattle Seahawks. 26 is the Carolina Panthers. 25, the Arizona Cardinals. 24 is the Detroit Lions. Number 23 is the New York Giants. 22 is the Tennessee Titans. Number 21 is the Washington Commanders. 20 is the Pittsburgh Steelers. 19, the New England Patriots. 18, Cleveland Browns. 17, Dallas Cowboys. 16, San Francisco 49ers. 15 is the Miami Dolphins. 14, the New Orleans Saints. 13, that would be the Minnesota Vikings. Number 12 is the Denver Broncos. 11 is the Las Vegas Raiders. 10 is the Philadelphia Eagles. 9, the Indianapolis Colts. 8, the Cincinnati Bengals. 7 is the Green Bay Packers. Number 6, the Baltimore Ravens. Number 5, the LA Rams. Number 4, the LA Chargers. Number 3 is the Kansas City Chiefs. Number 2 is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And number 1 with a bullet is the Buffalo Bills. Now, to see my power rankings, I post them every week on my Facebook page. Go to www.facebook.com/Big L Williams. And with that, this concludes this week's edition of the week that was. I just ran you through Kickoff Weekend 2022 in the National Football League. Now, coming up tomorrow, we got the Week 3 college football schedule and broadcast teams. We have the Week 2 maps for the NFL games on Sunday afternoon. And I'll make my picks straight up and against the spread. I'll see if I can get better than 10 wins next week. So join me tomorrow for that. In the meantime, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell twice every time I post a live vid. Big L signing off. Thanks for watching and enjoy the pigskin. Happy pigskin. Either way, peace out.